Hello, beautiful soul family. I am Carly, rebellious nurse, coming on tonight to talk to you about the topic of dissociation, amongst other things. I did a story not too long ago in the last month where I talked about how I felt dissociation when I was doing a breathwork session once. And I asked people if they were familiar with what dissociation was, and the majority of people said no, they wanted to know more. So I am here to talk about it from many different lenses. And so the basic definition of dissociation is when one thing disconnects from another thing. And hi Brian. Thank you for joining. So it's basically I wrote it down, the disconnection or separation of something from something else. So that's a basic definition of dissociation. And then it's also another definition is the state of being disconnected. So from a trauma perspective, we can dissociate from our bodies, which is probably the most common. We can become dissociated from our identity, from time, from reality. There's all these different ways that we can become disconnected, but the majority of us experience it mostly as a almost leaving of our bodies, a disconnection from our bodies. And some people say like that they'll leave their body. When I kind of look at it, I have struggled with dissociation throughout my life, and I really didn't know about it until recently. And so what I have experienced in learning about energetics and having this history is that I kind of look at it as like when we're dissociating from our body is like the tree trunk of the tree. Our body is like our grounding, like base, our home base. And so when we become disconnected from our body or we leave our body, what happens is we bring our consciousness up and we have it in our mind. We focus our consciousness in our mind. And so if our body is this tree trunk, our mind is the branches that are just swaying in the wind, swaying with every different thought pattern that comes in, swaying with every limiting belief, swaying with everybody else's energy that we're absorbing. And so if we aren't grounded energetically in our body and we're dissociated from our body and disconnected from our body, we're just flying around. We're ungrounded. So that's what the energetic lens for me has helped me conceptualize so many things because I don't know. So I'm hoping that it does the same for you. Noelle's on saying she swayed into bed. Good for you. I hope you can ground yourself in bed so you can fall asleep easier. So, symptoms of dissociation from a trauma lens can look like feeling numb, feeling disconnected from your emotions, feeling disconnected from reality. I was just telling somebody recently that just a couple years ago, like I'm 39, and just a few years ago, I truly felt like I was not a real adult. Like I called myself a fraudulent adult. It's like what, but it was like, I realized now it was like I had this disconnection with my reality. I used to look at my body sometimes and I would be like, I didn't have a connection with it. I spent a large part of my life disconnected from my body, so I don't think it's any mistake that I got into this realm of somatic work that takes me into the body. So you can lose time when you're dissociated. You can kind of be in like a fog and lose hours of time. You can, just like I said, feel disconnected from your reality, just feel like very foggy in general, have these periods where like you don't remember things. Like I have a lot of like when I was younger that I don't remember. And another way that you can look at this, that I always bring this up, this container theory that I just think that I'm supposed to talk about, because it came into my, into my mind, and it constantly comes back to me in like all of these different ways, is that what happens when you also look at trauma through an energetic perspective, you can look at it as like your body is the tree trunk grounding you, and then, you're ungrounded. If you're up here, you're not like balanced. But you can also look at it as the like emotional trauma is essentially a shutting down of all these different emotions that we experience that are not normalized in our society. And so when we shut these waves that are running through us down because we, think they're bad and this is what we're taught and all these things, it creates all the stagnance in our body. And so it's almost like if we live all of our lives building up this stagnant energy in our body, it gets so uncomfortable to be in our body. There's so much of our space is getting taken up by the stagnant, dense energy that it's like we blast out. Like it's just not even comfortable in that perspective. And another thing is that, to be connected to our bodies, we have to be willing to feel. And what tends to happen is that, another reason, like learning about trauma it's like, for me, it's so apparent that these are not just trends that I have experienced in my life. I think we all have different flavors, but I feel like our individual lives and how we're raised and all of the things, we are a microcosm in a macrocosm. So when you look at all of us and how we are, brought up in this world and taught to regulate our emotions, to me, it seems like we are almost... It's like feeling our feelings is not taught to us. It's not anything that is a foundation of society. The foundation of society is more like, oh no, don't feel this, get on your phone, or oh no, drink a beer, or let's just talk about it. Like we never go into the feeling aspect of healing. And that's another thing that's blown my mind as a healthcare professional who got into the field to help people, is that I look at the medical system and I see it set up as like, we're just numbing. We're putting people in talk therapy, keeping them up in their mind, looping and looping and looping their story and getting sucked into their different flavors of trauma, of emotional trauma. And then, or we're telling them to take medications that are numbing and that they become dependent on, that also continue to numb, keep us in these cycles. And so the way that I see medicine, now that I've branched out from my degree and experienced the like wild magic of this alternative health realm, which I have no idea how it's not the first line of health. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's like perpetuated in our society to divert us from feeling and to facilitate us numbing, continuing to numb and escape and avoid and keep ourselves in these cycles. So there is dissociation has a lot to do with trauma. It is part of trauma. There's something called dissociative identity disorder. There's other, there's all these different layers and levels of it. But if we're looking at it from the view of we are a microcosm within a macrocosm that has that has socially appropriate ways of being that we've all been programmed with in our own ways, I see this as we are dissociated from each other. We're dissociated from society as a whole. I feel like, in this time, I was thinking the other day, like, imagine if none of us ever heard the fucking word COVID-19. Like, can you even imagine what this world would be like with how heavily it is focused on these days? That's just a little bit of a digression. But if we look at this, at how connected we are as a whole, even though we have technology that literally I'm in my home and people can view me in their phone as if we're in the same room together, but it's almost like we're more disconnected than ever. And for something like I just mentioned, that is a topic, a blanket mainstream topic that in certain ways, it's almost like, in my opinion, being manipulated to seem like it's uniting us. At the end of the day, it's still causing separation. And so to me, the equivalent of dissociation is separation. It's us separating from our bodies. It's us separating from our feelings. It's us separating from each other. And when I look at this microcosm, macrocosm, and this unity that I feel so compelled to talk about, this concept of unity. I just keep getting these messages in all these different ways and keep getting this phrase in my head, united in healing. If we are all fragmented beings walking around because of how we have been reared in this world and the way that we are diverted from feeling and facilitated and told to numb, taught to numb ourselves out, if we are all like that and we look at the world as it is the mirror. We are just a small fragment of this big picture. And so that's why I feel so strongly. It's like, for the longest time, I got into nursing to help people. Then I'm like, okay, I'm not helping people. I'm keeping people in disease. Then I'm like, okay, I want to help people heal their trauma that no one really even is aware that they have, because this is an up and coming topic. And when we talk about emotions, like, how could any of us be free of emotional trauma when we live in this society and we were bred like this, So then it was about, I want to help people heal. I want to help people learn about emotional trauma and heal their emotional trauma. And now I'm starting to see this larger context, this larger why. So it's not even just about helping people anymore. It's that I see it as we live in a society that is giving us so much, is like overstimulating us beyond like we're losing ourselves completely in this overstimulation. That is, the majority of it is cognitive dissonance. So not only is it not even consistent information, we're already fragmented and we're just like freaking, we don't know what the hell to do anymore. And I see us as, if we want to become cohesive, if we want to change the state of the world, okay. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but I'm going to come back. Okay. So we are all fragmented and, oh shit, I'm losing it again. It's because I went in and was like, oh my gosh, no, I can't lose it. So it made it worse. Okay. So we have to, because we can't really trust these systems that we thought we could trust, and most of us are waking up to the illusion that we've been living within. Right now is the time to realize, I actually have to take responsibility for my own health, because the health that's been, spoon-fed to me my entire life is actually not really there to help me. It's more there to keep me suppressed. And if we look at it like that and we start taking responsibility for our health, and then we look at it from the fact that we were basically specifically programmed like this to be held down, to be, kind of like, I'm trying so hard to not say really like, it's so hard to not blame the world sometimes, and I'm working on it, and I've worked through so much anger about this, but it has been so difficult for me to face the fact that I really feel like this entire system has been set up against us, and to just live this many years and wake up to this, and still be processing this. It's a lot. But I feel like it is our responsibility to see things for what it is now. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I have not been paying attention to these comments. Is shaking up the old. Okay, so the present disconnect is shaking up the old mix to help create new connections or mix. Cultural appropriation was Tibet's downfall. Thank you for being here with me. And yes, I do believe that, we're purging our shadows right now, and all this stuff is coming up to show us, to force us to feel, to make us see that if we keep going the same way, we're going to destroy ourselves. And so that is, and the other thing that's always come through for me is be the change you wish to see in the world. If we feel like we're here to make a difference, if we feel like we look at the world and we're like, shit, I don't want my kids growing up in this, or I don't want to continue living like this another 10 years down the line, that's where we take responsibility. And I believe more than anything that healing ourselves and taking that responsibility to step foot on this healing journey, to face our own shadows, to face all of these programs that are not even ours, that we have been living with our entire lives, and many of us are just waking up to. It's our responsibility to shine a light on all of this. And in doing so, we are not only creating better health for ourselves, better relationships with our family and friends, we're creating a better world, one by one by one by one. And I just wrote this post about, this poem almost came out of me tonight, and I'm going to post it after this video. And it was like, if we're all this, if the universe, source, God, whatever the higher power is that you believe in, if that was like a infinite guitar, right? Let's just picture the higher power being this infinite guitar. Every single one of us is a string on that guitar, because we are all connected, and our actions affect each other. Our energy affects each other. Our consciousness affects each other. And so this state of separation, this state of dissociation that many of us are living with internally, but also externally, that is the place that we need to begin to heal. As we start to heal our bodies and feel into our bodies, we will naturally, as a ripple effect, start to change the world. And so when I keep getting these messages united in healing, I feel like this massive downfall of our society, this massive disruption in our society. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This disruption is here to be to wake us the fuck up, literally. Wake up. How many of us move through life on autopilot? This is the time to start questioning everything, every belief you have, everything you do every day, every article of clothing you have. Question your job, everything, question everything, because this is the time, this is a historical time that we literally get to, as our society and world as we know it dissolves, we get to start dissolving ourselves. And instead of just settling for whatever we thought we could get, instead of just being taught to settle, having some more endurance, learning emotional endurance. And that's just, it's not even, it's I was talking about this the other day, and it's we could say I want to learn emotional intelligence and emotional endurance, which is like an active thing, you know, and it's like, oh, I have to do that. I have to make time to do that. Or we could just know that as we release these bullshit programs, we're naturally going to take on emotional endurance and emotional intelligence. So is it about actively seeking those things, or is it about allowing yourself to passively surrender and release the stagnant bullshit that's built up inside of you? I forgot my train of thought again. So so I feel like we have been taught to settle. We've been taught like, well, if you come from this family, this is like as far as you can get. If you're a woman, this is the way it can go. If you're a man, this is how it goes. If you're African American, this is how it goes. And many of us unconsciously just signed the contract, you know, and we just went on autopilot and started living our lives the way that we were taught to by society. But this is the time to question everything, because at the end of the day, the more emotional intelligence we can learn, the more emotional endurance we can learn, when we can learn how to decide what we want and the only thing we're going to accept. You know, my boyfriend and I, my baby daddy and I are looking for an apartment, right? And so we went to see some of them today. And it was like, you know, I feel really picky. And he's picky. And I haven't really allowed myself to be picky much of my life. But you know what? Another thing that keeps coming through is like the more emotional endurance I can have, the more I can walk into a place and be like, sorry, this is not me. I know I have a time constraint. I know this. I know all these things. I know there's not a lot out there, all this stuff, but I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to settle, because at the end of the day, we get to decide what our lives look like. We get to decide what we want. We don't just have to sign up anymore. This is literally a revolutionary time in so many ways. And, wow, so much came out that I was not planning. Awareness of your insignificance dissolves the physical illusions. Let me breathe into that. Awareness of your insignificance dissolves the physical illusions. That's deep. However, I don't like calling us insignificant. Like, are we insignificant in the big scheme of things? I guess, but I want to believe that one person can change the world, that one person can start a ripple effect to change the world. You know, I was just thinking about, you know, Martin Luther King. It was Martin Luther King Day on Monday. And it's like, I watched his speech today, and look at this one person. Look at this one powerful person who he just chose. He just decided. Nobody appointed him. Nobody handed him an award until way later on. And this man was going against the grain, and he was persecuted. But he followed his belief, and his voice changed the world. So I think what you're trying to say is like, you know, in the big scheme of things, like, yes, we're all insignificant, but I want to believe that every single one of us can start this ripple effect, that one person can start a ripple effect, and it can affect another person, and then they ripple out, and then it affects another person, and it becomes exponential. And so that's what I see in this concept of being united in healing, which I think is going to start being one of my messages. I feel that's what we must do. And the thing is too, is like, I have done a lot of healing by myself, but but honestly, true healing only really takes place in the presence of another person. And so that's another way that this entire way that we're living is foiling us, because many of us feel very separated. And so how are we supposed to heal properly if we're not witnessed, and space isn't held for us, and we don't even feel safe enough to connect with other human beings? One believes in what they want to believe. Yes, I agree with that. I concur. So there's a lot in there. Good layered upon good will lift us all. Yes, yes, yes. And I think too, it's like this, dissociation is separation. Separation is caused a lot by judgment. How are we judging ourselves? How are we judging each other? That is what's causing this separation. In many, if you break it down to like one of the baseline foundations of, what separates our society, it's all these different things: race, religion, culture, all these different things. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's really the judgment that everybody's bringing to the table. And so if you can learn to stop judging yourself as much, anything that you work on in your relationship to yourself and building self-love, that is going to be the same thing that happens in every other relationship that you have. Pre-programming. Yeah, that's what I feel. We all are just programmed. So I'm feeling complete about all of that. I just want to mention before I get off of the video that I am opening up a 1-month accelerated healing portal. I'm calling it Breathe Yourself Free. It is a one-of-a-kind healing experience. It will be for exactly a month. It will have four Zoom calls. They're going to be weekly. And what we're going to do in the Zoom calls is we are going to go into the body. The body is our memory. The body is our subconscious. We are a computer. Everything that's happened to our life is everything that's happened to us in our life is hardwired into our body. So that's one of the reasons why the regular therapy that the medical system gives us keeps us ungrounded in our mind, constantly looping in our trauma. And it almost keeps us in this loop, like the loop of trauma. We have to start dissolving these loops in our body. And so these 4 breathwork healing sessions are part of it, and it's going to be going into the body, doing the work there. I have been doing this somatic work for about 1.5 years now. I am pain-free after having chronic pain for 10 years. I am more emotionally stable than I have ever been. The things that have been released from my body have caused not only a physical change, but a mental and emotional change. This is the most powerful, magical work that I have ever come across. What I have seen with this somatic work is literally miracles. Expect miracles. That is what this is. That's why it's like, to even call this alternative therapy is another way of gaslighting. It's freaking ridiculous. So 4 times a week, we go into the body. Then, because what ends up happening with this work, when we decide to stop being dissociated, when we decide to go against our normal and start feeling into our body, a lot of stuff opens up. We start feeling a lot more things. And so what I'm also offering in conjunction with these healing sessions is a Telegram chat. The Telegram chat is Monday through Friday. It's going to be 22 total days of support. And that is where you're going to come in and have access to me all day, Monday through Friday, to work through all the stories coming up in your mind, all the limiting beliefs. I'm getting distracted. I'm going to address all the comments after. We're going to address all the limiting beliefs. We're going to work through the mind in the chat, and then I will also be able to give you exercises. Telegram is awesome. You get to keep the history forever. It's a free app. You get to keep the history forever. We can send videos, we can send audio, we can send pictures. It's literally just like a complete connection. This is the most high touch way to work with me aside from my private one-to-one coaching. This is like a taste of that. And it is what I see it as, doing a 1 month container, like you're not going to heal all your stuff in 1 month. But the way that I view this is we're now more than halfway into 2022. You get to look at who you were all these times before and what's happened in 2022 so far, and what would you like to happen in the rest of 2022, and come in with those intentions. The really cool thing about healing and these alternative methods is that when you come in and you bring intention, like, I want to work on this, I want to work on this, I want to work on this, I want to shed this part of my identity, I want to go deeper into this part of my identity, that's exactly what happens. And the body already knows what to do, but you get to choose the focus. And so I'm offering this container program, this month-long accelerated healing program, for 3 people. And every single one of them is going to look different. It's going to be tailor-made for them, for their intentions, for their desires, for whatever they're looking to work through. So I'm really excited about this. I feel so passionate about this work. There is magic here. And I would love to support you. My soul is literally here to support you through this and to teach you everything that I've learned. You are going to have access to every single thing that I have learned and everything that I will learn in the next month through this Telegram chat. I am literally in your back pocket. So if you have been feeling very called to start on this journey, this is a beautiful springboard. And in this, like, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Like, before the last week, we're going to talk about a plan for you. And the whole point too is to really learn and integrate and anchor in these techniques that you can start using to diffuse your nervous system, to regulate your nervous system, and begin feeling that, begin knowing what your essence feels like, begin knowing what it feels like to operate from a regulated nervous system, because that's most of us don't know what that feels like. And giving you the tools to do that you're going to then take from there and be able to move on through the rest of this year and forevermore with these tools, knowing how to ground yourself, knowing how to diffuse your anxiety, knowing how to listen to your body that speaks in metaphors. So this is a short program, but I plan, my vision is that you get to soak up whatever you need. I'm here to teach you how to continue to navigate, how to not continue to re-traumatize yourself. But I'm here to share these things with you, but to also show you that you can make them your own, because they're not going to work if you're not attached to them, if you're not integrating with them. And so I look at myself as like, yes, I'm a coach, but I am your guide. I am helping guide you back to you. I'm not here to shove my opinions down your throat. I'm not here to, to drag you along and create another Carly. I am here to help you find your essence, your soul, to start pulling back the fragments of your soul that you disconnected from a long time ago that you're not even probably aware of. So, okay, that's Breathe Yourself Free. If you're interested, I would really recommend DMing me to have a discovery call, because I would really like to make sure that we're a good fit. If you're feeling this and you're like, this is a definite thing, I really want to do this, you can go to my website and you can purchase it there. But I would recommend a discovery call. We are denser, light, undense. We're denser, light, undense. Man, you say profound things. You've never been to the hospital. I've only been, oh my gosh, I have to stretch my legs. I've only been once, and it was not a terrible experience, I have to say. I felt very listened to, which felt really good. Okay. I'm going to take off for the night. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat really quick. Anybody who watches this later on, please, 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 I'm always here for questions. Pop them in the comments. If you want to stay anonymous, DM me. I am showing up daily on my Facebook business page and my YouTube page for the next almost year. I'm on like I think it's day 9 or day 10 today. I think it's day 9. About to go do that. But you can find me on YouTube or Facebook at Rebellious Nurse and follow me there just for like daily tidbits of whatever happens in my rebellious reality. I'm calling it 365 days of my rebellious reality. And then if you want to work with me in a briefer, more scattered ways, I have 2 other ways through breathwork, one-to-one breathwork healing sessions, or through soul support sessions, both of which are on my website with tons of info. www.rebelliousnurse.com can be found in posts on my Instagram, can be found on YouTube, can be found on Facebook Biz, and any questions are always welcome for everything. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this community. And I love you, and I hope you have a beautiful night.